October 1912. Baseball was on the verge of becoming the modern sport we know, but it still belonged to a wilder, rougher age. There were no helmets, no night games, and definitely no mercy. Two titans of the early game, the Boston Red Sox and the New York Giants, were about to collide in what would become the longest, strangest, and most emotionally draining World Series ever played. It took 8 games, one ending in a tie, and a final inning so chaotic it barely seems real. This wasn't just a championship. It was a war of endurance. The series kicked off at the Polo Grounds, home of the Giants. Boston sent their ace, Smoky Joe Wood, to the mound. New York countered with a living legend, Christy Mathewson. And from the first pitch, neither side blinked. The game crawled forward, inning by inning. Scoreless, tense, and suffocating. Every pitch felt heavier than the last. Boston finally broke through in the 6th inning, but New York clawed back late. 9 innings ended in a tie, then 10, then 11. Finally, in the bottom of the 11th, Boston scratched across the winning run. The final score was Red Sox 4, Giants 3. Boston drew first blood, but both teams left the field utterly exhausted. Game 2 completely flipped the script. New York's bats roared to life early, ambushing Boston's pitching with aggressive base running and sharp, well-placed hits. Boston fought back hard, but this time, the Giants' defense held firm. The great Christy Mathewson, rebounding from his Game 1 effort, shut the door and sealed the win. The final was Giants 6, Red Sox 2. The series was tied, and the tension was already boiling over. Back in Boston, for Game 3, the Red Sox looked like a different team. They were more aggressive, more urgent. Their lineup attacked early and often, pounding the Giants' pitching and taking advantage of every defensive misstep. Boston jumped out to an early lead and never let go. The final was Red Sox 2, Giants 1. It wasn't a flashy win, but it was relentless. And with that, Boston took a 2-1 series lead. Game 4 turned into another grinding duel. Both teams scratched and clawed for every single run. Both defenses bent but refused to break. Then, late in the game, New York found its opening and seized it. A clutch hit, a critical defensive stand, and just like that the momentum swung back in their favor. The final score was Giants 3, Red Sox 1. After 4 games, it was 2 wins each. Nobody was giving an inch. Game 5 is where this World Series truly began to unravel into legend. The game stretched on endlessly. Innings just kept piling up. Pitchers emptied their arms, running on pure adrenaline. By the 10th inning, darkness began to creep across the field, making it nearly impossible for the fans, and even the players, to see the ball. Then, chaos erupted. The umpire suddenly called the game a tie due to darkness. No winner, no loser. Just pure, unfiltered exhaustion. The World Series would not end today. The tie forced an extra game, and the weight of that reality made Game 6 feel heavier than all the rest combined. Boston came out desperate, almost frantic. They scored early. They applied constant pressure, refusing to let New York breathe. The Giants fought back with everything they had, but the Red Sox would not yield. The final score was Red Sox 5, Giants 2. Boston now stood just 1 win away from the championship. But this series had a habit of defying expectations. New York played Game 7 like a team staring at elimination, because they were. They clawed, they hustled, they fought for every single inch of ground. Boston made uncharacteristic mistakes, and the Giants capitalized on every single one. By the final out, the impossible had happened. The final score was Giants 4, Red Sox 3. The series was tied again. After 7 grueling games and 1 bizarre tie, everything came down to a decisive Game 8. October 16, 1912. Game 8 began like a funeral march. Both teams were battered beyond recognition. Pitchers were running on fumes. Players could barely lift their arms. Still, the game remained agonizingly tight. By the 10th inning, the score was tied 1-1, and then everything broke loose. It started with a simple error. A Giants outfielder dropped a routine fly ball. Then another misplay. A weak pop-up fell between 2 fielders who hesitated, each thinking the other had it. 1 run scored. And then another. Panic set in. A wild throw sailed past its target. Another run crossed the plate. The inning spiraled into complete madness. By the time the dust finally settled, Boston had scored 2 runs, not through power, but through sheer confusion, pressure, and the utter exhaustion of their opponent. The New York Giants went quietly in the bottom of the inning. The final score was Red Sox 3, Giants 2. After 8 games of brutal baseball, Boston finally stood alone. The 1912 World Series exposed the limits of the sport. It was too many games, too much physical strain, and there was too little structure. The chaos led directly to rule changes, stricter schedules, and better organization for future championships. But more than that, it left behind a legend. A story of a series that simply refused to end. A battle where no team would easily break. And it's a powerful reminder that early baseball wasn't just a game. It was about survival, 8 games. 1 tie, and 1 champion that barely crawled across the finish line. The 1912 World Series wasn't baseball at its cleanest or most elegant. It was baseball at its absolute rawest. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more great moments in baseball history.